A tribute here to Billy Wilder's The Apartment, certainly my favourite of his filmography and the finest film for myself of the romance, romantic comedy, the sort of genre bracket which The Apartment finds itself in. It may be its champion, I think. Possibly one of the best aged films of the pre 1970s in the English speaking language. I say this because it's so easy to imagine a modern audience who likes their romantic comedies and indie films enjoying Billy Wilder's The Apartment. It's very easy to imagine, actually. And move over Gene Seberg in Breathless, it's all about Shirley MacLaine in The Apartment. Insofar as Shirley MacLaine helped develop the character of Fran Kubelik, I suspect that it becomes a more three-dimensional human character rather than the purely male gaze creation that Gene Seberg operates as in Breathless, from my perspective, frankly. I mean, from my perspective as a male, Gene Seberg in Breathless is just an idealized representation of what us film nerds kind of, gawk over. Like, let's be real. Seberg in that film represented a woman that was more on-screen woman than real woman. The distinction between during the Alan Dwan silent film Stage Struck with Gloria Swanson, speaking of Billy Wilder, wherein Swanson was trying to win the heart of this man who was obsessed with actresses, but in the end he was in love with her. She didn't realize it because he distinguished, the grace and majesty of the aesthetic on the screen from the authentic, and he was in love with her for that. So that distinction, Gene Seberg is the on-screen versus Shirley MacLaine, who represents more so of what Gloria Swanson was in Alan Dwan's film Stage Struck from 1925. Where a lot of contemporary indie films fail, I feel, in comparison to The Apartment, where Wes Anderson might fail in comparison to what Billy Wilder did here, was because Wes Anderson's falling into the trap of what Gene Seberg was in Breathless. His female characters are kind of these on-screen dreams. They're not real people. They're not even what Sophia Loren was in the Countess from Hong Kong, which is essentially a female rendition of The Tramp, but she's a multi-dimensional character. Sophia Loren seeks to flesh that character out. Male directors certainly used to rely on their actresses to help flesh out the character because they would have a better idea of it intuitively, naturally. And there's so few of us men who never, ever, ever, ever felt like Jack Lemmon did in this film. Oh, sometimes it's so easy to relate with Jack Lemmon's character, where these fanciful idealists, we believe in the kind of happy endings and, the goodwill of people and trusting others. And yet, even the most seemingly, the things in the world that motivate us, behind it seems like behind that beauty there's sometimes a facade. Something which is just almost can't help but feel contemptuous of anyone else's happiness because they know the world is so ugly. But is Jack Lemmon truly naive? He knows the world is ugly. Maybe his smile is just a way of acknowledging that he has so much good in his life. He's doing well at work. There are many, many great fortunes in Jack Lemmon's life, in spite of the amount of misery in the world and that he has to encounter. He's treated like a piece of dirt by his co-workers, and he seems to be kind of the hapless kind of at the loss compared to everyone else at his office or his workplace seems to be winning on the up. He never seems to be quite on the up, although he's got a lot of great things going on in his life, materially, not necessarily socially perhaps. But he keeps a smile on because there is good in the world. He at least gets to speak with Fran, Miss Kubelik. She might not be his. It's unfortunate. If anything is bringing him down, it's her misery. He wishes she could be as happy. She could feel the enthusiasm for the world in spite of its ugliness that he does. He wishes she could feel that. By the end of the
Shut up and edit.